Good morning, everyone. My name is MightyStream. I'm going to do our March 29th just for today in a meditation. I hope you're doing well this morning. Let's go ahead and get into that meditation and see what we have. The title of the meditation for today, God-centeredness. God-centeredness. Gradually, as we become more God-centered than self-centered, our despair turns to hope. That comes from the basic text, page 95. What a glorious thing to have hope. Before coming to Narcotics Anonymous, many of us lived lives of utter hopelessness. We believed we were destined to die from our disease. Many members speak of being on a pink cloud their first months in the program. We've stopped using, made some friends, and life looks pretty promising. Things are going great. Then reality sets in. Life is still life. We still lose jobs. Our partners still leave us. Friends still die. We still get sick. Abstinence is no guarantee that life will always go our way. When the reality of life on its own terms sets in, we turn to our higher power and remember that life happens the way life happens. But no matter what occurs in our recovery, we need not despair, for there's always hope. That hope lies in our relationship with our higher power. This relationship, as expressed by the thought in our text, develops over time. Gradually, we become more God-centered. As we rely more and more on the strength of our higher power, life's struggles don't have to drag us into the sea of despair. As we focus more on God, we focus less on ourselves. Just for today, I will rely on my higher power. I will accept that, regardless of what happens, my higher power will provide me with the resources to live with it. Let's take a moment of silence followed by a reversion of the serenity prayer. Moment of silence now, please. Thank you. God, grant us the serenity to accept the things that we cannot change, the courage to change the things that we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Just for today, please and thank you. Well, you know me well enough by now to know that this is a topic that I love talking about, God-centeredness, and I love talking about self-centeredness and the difference between the two, because I know for a fact that, I was raised in such a way that, I don't know about you guys, I personally was raised in such a way where every day it seemed like there was a fight that I was either watching or I was involved in some kind of physical altercation. There are many reasons for that, but let's just say that most of the time it was with siblings, but a lot of times it was, I would say, probably a fourth of the times it actually involved other people that I went to school with. I was raised in a time where, um, a multiracial relationship was not okay. And so I had a stepfather that was white, and I had a mother that was Black in the early 70s. Martin Luther King had just been assassinated 1 year after my birth. And so there was a lot of tension in my state, in many states actually, based on race. And with that being said, that I learned at a very early age You need to know, girl, you need to know how to take care of yourself. You have to know how to take care of yourself. You have to be able to think for yourself. You need to be able to run as fast as you can. Oh, there's so many times I was chased. I was chased by people that hated me just because of the color of my skin. And there were times that they caught me too, and I took a beating. So, I mean, when I think about it, I felt like self-centeredness was not necessarily a bad thing. It was something that I had to do. I had to take care of myself. You see what I'm saying? So, a lot of us might grow up thinking self-centeredness is, not really an issue. You need to have some self-centeredness. You need to be aware of your surroundings, and you need to know how to protect yourself, and you need to know how to think for yourself, and you need to know how to do this for yourself. And you all of a sudden, with all of that, and I'm just talking about my own experience here, right, guys? Like I told you, I could talk about this all day, right? And I might today. I just might. Because you know what? No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But self-centeredness wasn't something that I looked at and someone said, "Oh, you're self-centered." I got to Narcotics Anonymous and I learned the term self-centered. But before that, I would never use the term. Why would I use the term? The term didn't mean anything to me because I kind of correlated it with taking care of oneself. Now let's add some dope to that. Okay, let's go there. Let's add some dope to that. Now, all of a sudden, self-centeredness or self-care, right? Self-care all of a sudden becomes self-obsession. I began to learn that good quality of self-care could flip over into self-centeredness almost immediately. One hit was too many, right? One was too many, and I thought this was never enough. And so when I would get high, immediately I would go into it's all about me. And I don't care what mask I have to put on to make you think it's about us. It's about me getting one more. You need to understand that seriously. And so coming into Narcotics Anonymous, I learned that self-centeredness was not something that I should brag about having. It wasn't something that I needed to have or wanted to have. I found out that self-centeredness was at the core of my disease. And I'm pretty sure if you took the time today to investigate or to look at and take a magnifying glass and look at your behavior, which is one of the things we use the 4-step to do. But if you would just take a look, a small look, I'm talking about just take 5 minutes after this meditation and think about your behaviors in active addiction. I'm pretty sure you're going to say, yeah, self-centeredness is at the core of my disease. I did a lot of things. I did a lot of humiliating things, a lot of negative things, degrading things just to get high. Come into Narcotics Anonymous and you want me to flip that from being self-centered to being God-centered? Are you serious? Are you serious? I think one of the reasons why I was self-centered is because I was so mad about having been God-centered at one time and feeling let down. Are you serious? You want me to go from depending on myself, being a God with a small g all by myself, to inviting a power greater than myself, step 2, a God of my own understanding, step 3, humbly ask God to remove my shortcomings, maintain conscious contact with the God of my own understanding through prayer, prayer, come on now, prayer and meditation, and have a spiritual awakening as a result of these spiritual principles. You want me to now become holy? You want me to now become an individual that is God-centered? I don't know if I can do that. I don't, because I've always blamed God for every problem that I've ever had. The point of this meditation is that life happens. And while we were in active addiction and self-centered, it was easier to blame something or someone else for everything that was taking place, rather than look it squarely in the face and say, this is life on its own terms. This is the wreckage of someone's own behavior, bad decision making. Not even considering that self-centeredness and that behavior of self-gratification was the seed that sprouted with roots and developed fruit, self-centered fruit. It took me a long time to get comfortable talking about God in Narcotics Anonymous, because I did not want anyone telling me, you made yourself a God, MightyStream. You were self-centered and you worshiped yourself. And the things that you have experienced, the issues that you have experienced, the things you're digging yourself out of a hole for, those things are a direct consequence of your own Godship. It doesn't have anything to do with a higher power that is loving and caring, because if you had a higher power with a relationship with that God, and you were God-centered, you wouldn't be here probably. You probably wouldn't be here, or you wouldn't have the problems, at least, that you blame God for. See, I didn't want to have the conversation. I didn't. And I know there's many people that are listening thinking, I'm not going to church this morning. No, you're not going to church, not with me, right? That's not the topic. That's not the business here. We're talking about, are we God-centered? Or are we still self-centered? And this is something that we have to develop. See, the reading says gradually as we become more God-centered than self-centered. So that tells me that on one side of the teeter-totter or one side of the balance, there is the self-centeredness. On the other side is God-centered. And it tells me, when I just read that sentence, I'm not going to get rid of this tendency of self-centeredness, but I'm going to develop the strength, the muscle of God-centeredness, and add some weight on that side so that when things do come up, it has more of an effect on me. It's the one that outweighs the self-centeredness. And eventually, after practicing doing it, it becomes habit, guys. It becomes second nature to think about spiritual principles and to think about, okay, if I talk this way, I was listening in a meeting last night or this morning, I guess it would be the marathon meeting at the Dackman convention. I was listening to a man in a wheelchair having a conversation and talking, sharing. And he was trying to convince everyone of the intensity of his God-centeredness, his relationship with God. And he showed and demonstrate for us how he got up out of that wheelchair and he was able to walk even a little bit. And he talked about it. But do you know that his language was so foul? Every other word was a cuss word. And I began to listen to the mess and not the messenger. What's my point? My point is that even with 30, I think he said 38 years or so, he still has that tendency to lean into using a certain type of language so that he can have a certain type of an effect because he thinks that is what the crowd is looking for. His self-centeredness was seeping through. He went to share something and he said, I still use, and everyone gasped. 38 years and you still use and you share like that about how good your self God-centeredness is? Everyone gasped. And in that moment, he got so distraught and he couldn't figure out what to say. And you know what he said? He said, no, 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 no. I still use the program. And people started clapping because it seemed like a good save. It was almost comical, but it rattled him so much. And do you know what happened? His voice got louder. He shared more intensely. He cussed even more. And what's the point, MightyStream? The point is, with 38 years, don't you ever think that self-centeredness is all tucked away really good in a cabinet somewhere, and you're not going to see it or have to deal with it. I wish I could tell the newcomer or even the person that's been around, I wish I could tell them that. That is not what's about to happen. It's always going to be a part of you because you are a human being that is taking care of oneself. Your tendency in our minds is to care for ourselves. I wish you could see me. I wish you could be here in this hotel room and just see me. I feel this meditation so deeply because I believe, listen to me, and I'm going to end with this. I believe what happens is that we have these high, I want to cry. We have these high expectations of ourselves and others. And in that self-centeredness, when we fail to meet what we consider as our spiritual, highly spiritual expectations of ourselves, when we fail to meet those, we digress into negative self-talk and we condemn ourselves. And because we are judging others, we think that they are judging us, which they may be. And it shoots us all, catapults us all the way back into that stinking thinking that we came into the rooms with. And I believe that some of us don't have the capacity to feel shame and guilt after being clean so long. And when we make mistakes and we have operated in our self-centeredness, many of us will pick up a behavior or a drug to make that feeling of guilt and shame go away. Come on now, are you listening to me this morning? Because I am talking about the inability to be humble when we make mistakes, and to use self-care and love and forgiveness for oneself so that we don't end up having to pick up something to make that feeling go away. See, I need to know and understand that self-centeredness becomes less powerful. It doesn't go away. That's my point. God-centeredness is something that I must develop, and it becomes stronger and more powerful and has more weight because I am willing to try and apply that relationship to my situation. See, abstinence is no guarantee that life will be beautiful. Matter of fact, a lot of people get clean and they find out initially there's so much chaos as a result of your using. Deteriorated health, deteriorated relationships. Oh, come on. I know I'm talking to somebody because we get clean with this expectation that now everything's going to be okay. Everybody's happy to see me now. No. And if you have that expectation, there's going to be some days where you're going to think it was better using. I had a sponsee tell me, she said, life was better when I was smoking crack. You know why? I said, why, girl? Why would you say something else like that? Why? She said, because I didn't have to feel anything. I said, oh, okay. Okay. So let me get this straight. You're in a relationship that you knew you shouldn't have been in anyhow. He beats you. You go ahead and allow that thinking that you don't want to feel the shame and the agony, the embarrassment, even the pain of the bruises. You don't want to feel that. So let's get some crack and get high, and it's going to go away. Well, let me tell you something. While you sitting there high, whatever just took place still has taken place. It doesn't go away just because you get high. It doesn't change anything. It changes your perception of your reality. And that's it. That's all. And when you come off of that high, you're going to find that you're going to need another high because the situation is still going to be there. As a matter of fact, because time progresses on, what is happening is that it probably has gotten worse while you've been sitting there high. I can't think of a situation that getting high has made better for anybody. I can't talk about relapse, right? I cannot talk about relapse. I can't tell you that I had a problem and I picked up and I thought it was going to get better. I had a problem and I picked up some behaviors. I didn't pick up no drug. I picked up some behaviors, lying and cheating and manipulating and gaslighting folks. I picked up some behavior. I did not pick up a drug. I can't tell you that was my story, but I can tell you that I picked up the behavior so that I could feel better about myself. Myself. That's self-centeredness, God. God-centered is where I want to be today. And I have to be willing to develop my relationship with the God of my understanding. And the way that that happens is that everything that does come up, I take a moment of silence and I pull back and I said, let me get my focus right. And I go into my 11th step and I'm asking the God of my understanding through prayer. And I'm listening to the answer as a result of meditation, shutting my mouth and listening. Spirit talk. I'm listening for God to tell me his will for me. What is it that I'm supposed to do? And then I'm asking for power, the strength to actually do that. And that, my folks, is how I develop God-centeredness. I practice the relationship. I allow the relationship to be the most important thing for me. In all of my affairs, I'm looking to apply spiritual principles. And yes, I get self-centered sometimes and I mess up, but I turn the butt kicking machine off when I realize what actually happened, where I went wrong. I try to correct that and I let that go. I let that go. My name is Mighty Stream, guys, and I know my voice has kind of gone out and we've gone on long today, but this is a meditation that I believe is a 5-star. I want for you to mark it and come back to it, and I want you to think about it. When you are going through a problem in a situation, I want you to tell yourself, let me go to the podcast and listen to March 30th. I want for you to do that, okay? My name is Mighty Stream. I've enjoyed talking to you. I hope that you will have a beautiful day on purpose. If you're in the beautiful city of Detroit, Motown, and you're coming to the DACNA convention, I will have on, what will I wear today? I think I'm going to have on a hoodie that says hope, not dope, some blue jeans, and some black boots. And I have very, very, very long hair. But I have two little knots at the top that make me look like Mickey Mouse. If you see me, please stop and say, "Mighty Stream, I listen to that podcast that you do, and I want to get to know who you are. I want your phone number in my phone." Let's take it a step further and truly become friends. If you're coming to DACNA, I'll look forward to seeing you. Have a beautiful day in the meantime on purpose. I intend to talk to you tomorrow.